You are tuned into Justice Insight Cam. Here, we examine genuine law enforcement encounters through actual bodycam footage. Rather than just watching, we investigate the underlying truths, legal principles, and key lessons of every stop. Let's pursue justice together.
Ma'am, we're here for the child.
What? Why? What do you mean?
There's an emergency order. We need you to step aside.
No, wait. You can't just take my child.
Ma'am, please cooperate. This is time sensitive.
He didn't knock. He didn't ring the bell. He stood on the porch like he'd done it 100 times before, watching the dark window, waiting for a silhouette to move behind the curtains. When the door finally opened, the hallway light spilled out in a thin rectangle, and you could see the child's shoes lined neatly by the mat. "Ma'am," the officer said, voice quiet but final, "we're here for the child." The mother's face shifted through 3 emotions in one breath: confusion, then panic, then that stunned kind of denial that sounds like bargaining. "What do you mean you're here for my child?" Behind the officer, a social worker held a folder against her chest, like a shield. The papers inside were only a few pages, but they carried the weight of something enormous: an emergency custody order, a judge's signature. 48 hours. That's all it took to take a normal family life, messy, imperfect, human, and flip it into a courtroom crisis where every text message, every raised voice, every missed pickup time suddenly mattered. And the cruel part is this: in emergency custody hearings, the first decision is often made before the other side even gets a chance to speak. So the question isn't just what happened, it's how fast it happened, and why. Because in the next 2 days, the clock will become its own weapon. This story is a composite, built from patterns that repeat across family courts: the rapid filings, the late-night calls, the rushed hearings, the way emergency can mean danger, or it can mean strategy. Either way, the consequences are real. And if you've ever wondered how someone can lose custody in what feels like a blink, stay with me. Because the most important details in these cases are rarely the dramatic ones. They're the quiet ones. The timestamp on a voicemail, the wording on a police report, the moment someone decides to call it an emergency. Let's step back. 2 parents, a separation that didn't stay clean, a child caught in the middle. We'll call the mother Nadia. We'll call the father Eric, and we'll call the child Mia. Not because this is one specific case, but because these names could fit thousands. Nadia and Eric didn't start as enemies. They started as people. A relationship that looked steady from the outside, photos at birthdays, vacations that made it to social media, inside jokes. Then, slowly, like water seeping under a door, resentment. Arguments that started about chores and ended somewhere darker. The kind of fighting that doesn't always sound like yelling. Sometimes it's silence, sometimes it's sarcasm, sometimes it's 2 people speaking in polite sentences that cut like knives. When they separated, they tried to keep it civil. Split weeks, school schedules, a shared calendar. The child's life divided into neat blocks of time. But civil in family court is fragile. One missed handoff can turn into a narrative. One angry text can become evidence. And one phone call, can turn parenting conflict into emergency removal. Here's the part people miss. Emergency custody is not the same as final custody. It's not supposed to be a long-term judgment about who is a better parent. It's supposed to be a fast, temporary intervention when there's an immediate risk. Immediate, not hypothetical, not "I'm worried", not "I don't like the way they parent". Immediate. But what counts as immediate can get blurry in the hands of frightened people, or strategic ones. And because these orders move fast, they can create a reality that's hard to undo. The child is placed, the schedule changes, the school is notified. The story becomes the child was removed, which sounds like guilt even when it isn't. And now, to get back to normal, The other parent has to climb a hill with a backpack full of suspicion. If you're watching this and you've ever been through custody court, or you know someone who has, tell me what state you're watching from. Family court rules vary, but the pressure points are strangely universal. Now let's go back to the beginning of the 48 hours. Hour 0 begins on a Wednesday. Nadia's day is ordinary in the way single-parent days have to be. She wakes up before the alarm. Lunches, a missing sock, hair brushed in the bathroom mirror while her coffee goes cold. Mia is 8, old enough to sense tension, young enough to think it's her job to fix it. Nadia drops her at school with a smile that's practiced. Then she drives to work with her phone sitting in the cup holder, like a small bomb. Because she knows Eric has been angry, not violent, not screaming, just relentless. Messages that arrive at odd hours. Questions that aren't really questions. Accusations disguised as concern. Is she safe with you? Are you taking your meds? Are you drinking again? Nadia reads them and feels the same reaction every time. That tightness in the throat, that heat behind the eyes, the feeling of being put on trial in the middle of a Tuesday. She doesn't answer immediately. She tries to keep everything in writing. She tries to stay calm, but calm is exhausting when you're being provoked. At 11:46 a.m., Nadia gets a voicemail. It's Eric. His voice is controlled, almost gentle. I'm worried, he says. She sounded scared last night. I'm not trying to start anything. I just want to know she's okay. Nadia listens twice. Then she scrolls back. Last night. Mia had cried because she didn't want to do math homework. That was it. But in Eric's voice, it sounds like something else. And that's how it starts. Not with a lie, with a version. At 2:03 p.m., Nadia gets a call from the school. Mia's father is on our pickup list, the receptionist says. He called asking if he could pick her up early. Nadia's stomach drops. It's my week, she says. He can't just pick her up. The receptionist pauses. He said there's an emergency. That word, emergency. Nadia drives to the school in a panic that feels irrational until you've lived it. She arrives sweating, breath too fast. Mia is still in class. The school hasn't released her. Eric isn't there. But the fact that he tried, just tried, tells Nadia something. He's moving, and she's behind. At 4:30 p.m., Eric files something. Not a standard motion, not a polite request, an emergency petition. He claims Mia is at imminent risk. He claims Nadia is unstable. He references erratic behavior. He includes screenshots of texts, not all of them, just the ones where Nadia finally snapped, where she said things like, "Stop harassing me. You're scaring me. If you don't stop calling, I'll go to court." In isolation, they don't prove danger, but they paint a mood. He adds something else, a welfare check, a police report from a night weeks earlier when a neighbor called because they heard shouting. No arrests, no charges. But the report exists, and in emergency custody, the existence of paper can matter more than the truth inside it. At 6:12 p.m., Nadia is making dinner when there's a knock. 2 officers, a wellness check. The smell of food fills the hallway. Mia is on the couch with a blanket. Nadia is embarrassed before she's angry. Is everything okay? One officer asks. Nadia wants to scream. She wants to say, yes, everything is okay until you show up and make my kid think it isn't. Instead, she nods. She answers politely. She keeps her voice flat. The officers look around. They see a clean home. They see a child who looks fine. They leave, but they leave behind something else. A record, another piece of paper, another timestamp. This is how the chessboard gets set. Eric's petition, the welfare check, the selected screenshots, the framing, and now, the clock. Because emergency custody hearings don't move like normal hearings. They don't wait for convenience. They don't always wait for full investigation. They move because the system is designed to prioritize speed over perfection. Sometimes that saves kids, sometimes it destroys families. Hour 12. Nadia gets an email at 2:17 a.m. Subject line, Notice of Emergency Hearing. She opens it half awake, eyes burning. The hearing is scheduled for the next afternoon. She reads it again. She has less than a day to respond. She doesn't even understand what she's reading at first. There are legal terms: affidavit, ex parte, temporary order. She sees the sentence that makes her sit straight up in bed. Petitioner requests immediate temporary sole custody, pending further hearing. Immediate. She shakes, not because she's guilty, because she realizes the system can move without her. At 7 a.m., Nadia calls lawyers. Voicemail, voicemail. A receptionist who says, "Our next consult is next week." Next week, she has hours. She calls a legal aid line. She's placed on hold. The hold music feels insulting. She texts a friend. "I think he's trying to take her." The friend replies, "Go to court. Go now." Nadia takes the day off work. She drives to the courthouse with a folder of documents she doesn't even know how to label. School records, pediatrician notes, a calendar printout, screenshots of Eric's messages, the full thread, not the curated version. She sits in a hallway with fluorescent lights that make everyone look sick. Around her, other parents wait. Some angry, some numb. Family court hallways have a specific atmosphere. Not the loud drama of criminal court, not the polished suits of corporate litigation. This is quieter, more intimate, and because it's about children, every emotion is sharper. By noon, Nadia finds a lawyer willing to help, last minute, paid with money she doesn't really have. He speaks quickly. "Emergency hearings are tricky," he says. "The judge will be looking for immediate risk. We need to show stability. We need to show that this is not what he's claiming." Nadia hears the word he doesn't say. Not what he's claiming, because in family court, people claim things all the time. The question is what the judge believes on limited information. Hour 24. The hearing. Nadia sits at a table in a small courtroom that doesn't feel like television. No dramatic wood paneling, no gallery of spectators. Just a judge, a clerk, and two sides of a story. Eric sits across from her. He looks calm, almost sad. He's wearing the expression of a man who is simply concerned. And it's powerful, because the parent who looks composed often looks credible. Nadia's lawyer whispers, "Stay calm, let me do the talking." Nadia nods, but her hands won't stop shaking. The judge enters. The clerk calls the case, and suddenly, Nadia hears her life described in bullet points. Eric's attorney speaks first. He says, "Emergency," so many times it starts to sound like a spell. He describes Nadia as volatile. He references the welfare check. He holds up screenshots. He says Mia expressed fear. Nadia's chest tightens. Mia didn't express fear. She expressed frustration. She expressed normal kid emotions. But in court language, feelings become evidence. The judge listens, takes notes. Then Nadia's lawyer speaks. He explains the context. He shows the full text thread. He points out the lack of actual findings in the welfare check. He highlights school attendance, medical records, stability. He says the word that matters, pattern. This is not a sudden emergency. This is a custody dispute being escalated into an emergency process. The judge leans back. Here is the moment that changes everything. Because in emergency custody, the judge is often deciding between two imperfect sets of information, and they have to choose safety, even if the danger isn't proven, even if the risk is exaggerated, because if they choose wrong, the consequences are catastrophic. So the judge asks Nadia a question, direct, simple. Have you ever been treated for mental health issues? Nadia freezes, because the honest answer is yes. After the separation, she saw a therapist. She was prescribed medication for anxiety. She's stable. She's functioning. She's parenting. but she knows how it sounds. She knows how it can be weaponized. And in that second, she realizes the trap. If she says no, and Eric later produces a record, she looks like she lied. If she says yes, Eric will use it as proof she's unstable. Her lawyer stands. "Your Honor," he says, "she has sought treatment proactively, as many responsible parents do. There is no evidence it impacts her parenting." The judge nods, but doesn't fully relax, because judges are human, and human brains are wired to fear what they don't fully understand. Hour 30. The judge makes an interim decision, not permanent, not final. But interim decisions in custody can feel like the world ending. The judge orders a temporary schedule change. Mia will spend the next weekend with Eric. Nadia will retain primary placement for the week. No removal tonight, no emergency transfer. But the judge orders an evaluation, a guardian ad litem, more hearings, and importantly, the judge says, both parties are instructed to refrain from disparaging the other parent to the child. That line sounds routine, but it's also the judge signaling, I can see the conflict. For Nadia, it's not a clean win, because emergency court doesn't give clean wins. It gives provisional reality, and now she has to live inside that reality. Hour 36. Nadia picks Mia up from school. Mia senses the shift immediately. "Did I do something wrong?" she asks. Nadia's heart breaks. "No," she says. "No, baby. This is grown-up stuff." But the child doesn't understand grown-up stuff. She understands tension. She understands when her mom cries in the bathroom with the faucet running. She understands when her dad calls more often. She understands when adults talk in the hallway and stop when she walks in. Hour 42. Eric files another motion, because that's what people do when they feel momentum. He asks for more restrictions, supervised exchanges, limitations. Nadia's lawyer tells her something that sounds cynical, but is often true. When someone uses emergency court once, they learn how powerful it is. They often try again. This isn't about safety now, it's about leverage. Hour 48, 2 days after the first knock. Nadia sits alone at her kitchen table, the same table where she packs lunches, the same table where she helps with homework, but now it feels like a war room. Papers spread out, calendar highlighted, notes from her lawyer. She looks at the clock. She realizes she has spent 48 hours not living, but reacting. And this is what emergency custody does. It collapses time. It forces you to defend your parenthood on someone else's schedule. It turns private life into public record. And it teaches you something brutal. The parent who moves first can control the narrative, even if the narrative isn't true. Now here's the larger truth. Emergency custody hearings exist because sometimes children really are in danger. And when that danger is real, speed matters. But the same speed that protects can also be exploited. Because family court runs on limited information, high emotion, and a judge's responsibility to prevent worst-case outcomes. So if you present a story that sounds like danger, even if it's just a custody argument dressed up in urgent language, you can trigger a system designed to err on the side of caution. That caution comes at a cost. Sometimes it's the right cost, sometimes it's the wrong family paying it. In the weeks that follow, the case continues. Evaluations, school interviews, home visits, slow processes meant to correct the speed of the emergency, and eventually, the court will make a more informed decision. But the 48 hours? Those don't disappear. Mia will remember the officers at the door, the whispered phone calls, the tense handoffs. Nadia will remember how it felt to be asked to prove she deserved her own child. Eric will remember how effective emergency can be. And the judge will move on to the next case, carrying the same burden. Deciding fast, with incomplete information, hoping the decision protects the child. So let me ask you something. When the system is built for speed, how do we protect children without turning emergency into a tool for control? And if a parent can reshape reality in 48 hours, before the other side even gets a fair chance, what does justice look like in a courtroom that's always racing the clock? Tell me what you think. Because in family court, the most dangerous thing isn't always what's happening behind closed doors. Sometimes, it's what can happen in a rush, in just 48 hours, when everything changes.
Thank you for your time. Should this video have broadened your understanding, please support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing to Justice Insight Cam. Keep yourself informed, stay safe, and await our upcoming broadcast.